Hey.
It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Get in the van. We're going for another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders on his afternoon drive. Alan, how we doing?
I'm doing good. I like it.
What'd you think?
I like it.
All right. We'll see if that continues. That was the first attempt at working its way in. Actually had a couple comments from Ken that I was seeing in the YouTube. Got caught up on the SN Plus subscribers only live show that we did this past week. But anytime that I see in the YouTube comments from Ken, just always puts a smile on my face because I know we're getting a sign on and a sign off from him from the desk of Ken in New Hampshire. So attempt number 1 in the books. Let me know how you guys feel about it. Alan, let's talk some ball.
Let's do it. I'm excited. Last day of school today.
Ooh.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Last day of school.
In and out and on their bye.
Yeah.
I just left the Steelers facility. There were about 1.2 cars in the parking lot as I exited at 4:50 p.m.
What was the 0.2 there? Was it like an electric scooter like I got?
Yeah. Somebody's got an electric scooter there.
Okay.
It's pretty empty. Everybody's out flying home and enjoying their break.
Cool. Didn't have this on here, but any fun plans that you heard of? Anybody got anything going on?
No, because I didn't get to talk to the players today. I didn't hear from a lot of people about any fun plans. So I don't know. I don't know what guys are up to.
I'll have to do some digging and find out if anybody's got anything going on during the bye. Didn't talk to any players, but you did talk to some coaches. We can start there. I think there's the most stuff probably from TA, so we'll save that. Alan, the big topic that everybody wanted to talk about, and we talked about this quite a bit yesterday, so is it worth rehashing? I guess the coach talked about it, so maybe. Denzel Martin talking about the edge rotation. Feel really good, obviously, when you get Alex Highsmith back in the fold and the players that they have there. But it seems like anytime Nick Herbig gets an opportunity to start, continues to make splash plays, there's just going to be a calling for him to get more and more opportunity. And I asked you yesterday if you felt like that would be any closer to an even split when Highsmith got back into the fold. You said you didn't think so. Curious as to what Denzel Martin had to say.
Basically, what I said yesterday is that it's going to be Alex Highsmith, and they're going to find ways to use Nick Herbig, reducing the overall number of snaps for each of those guys, to where, I would say ideally – trying to get TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith at or below 80%. And then that gives you a whole bunch of Nick Herbig. And also, he talked up the idea of playing the 3 outside linebackers together more often. He said they really want to do that. But, of course, they have to get teams in 3rd and long to do that. And that's something over the first 4 weeks of the season they have struggled with. So we'll see if they're able to consistently do that. But
what's the best alignment for you in the 3 outside linebacker stuff? Not to cut you off, I'm just curious.
Oh, for me is to put Nick Herbig in the middle because, he's the best coverage guy of that group. Mm-hmm. So that creates some real uncertainty as to whether he's actually rushing or not. They can and have dropped TJ and Alex from time to time. And they're certainly better at it than, some of the straight up 4-3 DNs out there. But that's not really what they're good at. But Herbig, I think, is a different animal in that regard, in that he has a little bit of versatility to his game where, if they had a catastrophic run of inside linebacker injuries, something like that, I wouldn't really hesitate to go play him there. I think he could do it. And so I think that gives them a bit more versatility and a bit more disguise to it if you make him the guy in the middle.
A lot of people are looking foolish for this take, but I know when he was first coming out, that was a thought. Was like, if he's too small, is he going to end up playing off-ball linebacker in the NFL?
Yeah.
So,
I think he could. I don't think that was a dumb take. And obviously, you're not going to play someone who can play on the edge at off-ball linebacker because an edge player is much, much, much more valuable. But, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he could do it. And so, yeah, I think putting Herbig in the middle makes the most sense. And then, we'll see how things go. But I think there's a lot to like about having all 3 of them, and especially we talked about how, hey, this week 5 bye feels really good, and right now it does. But remember what's coming on the other side of that. You get a little 2-week break here because you got the short week, and then you'll have another kind of mini bye after that Thursday night football game. But that is week 7, and there's 10 in a row after that. And you're going to want to find ways to limit the exposure over that 10-week stretch, which, I mean, almost, I don't want to say certainly, but looks very probable right now that 10-week will lead into an 11th game in a row in a wild card game, right? I mean, that feels very, very much like where we're headed, and you want those guys to be fresh at the end of that. And so I think there are going to be some honestly tough choices to make for the Steelers about how much to play guys over that stretch and trying to find places to rest players. And, the edge position is not going to be one of those where that's a tough decision. You don't feel bad at all putting Nick Herbig into the game. Yeah.
And even, I mean, we've talked about Sawyer maybe not flashing as much as a pass rusher early on as we would like, but I think that he's looked okay when he's been in there against the run.
You don't feel bad about him playing.
Yeah, right. And I'll be honest, tip of the cap for the work he's done on special teams. I think if you go back and watch some of the punt coverage work that he's done,
especially for a guy who didn't do it in college.
Yeah.
Usually the good special teamers are the Carson Bruners who also did that in college. He didn't. He's adjusted to that role on the fly and done a nice job of it. Did they change the roles or something? I thought if you got the 1 seed, you didn't have to play on Wild Card Weekend. You were talking about them playing on Wild. No, that's just me appealing to the crowd. I'm so negative all the time. I thought I'd work in being a little optimistic there. All right, so good stuff there. Let's talk about just talked about off-ball linebacker. Let's go there next. Scott McCurley, who is the new off-ball linebackers coach, or relatively new off-ball linebackers coach, talked about Payton Wilson. I'm curious as to what he had to say about him. Was it more so just about that one play, or just like the trajectory of him in general? Yeah, like a little bit of both. We talked about the one chase down play, and he talked about how he does that in practice all the time. It doesn't matter if it's a wide receiver; he'll run them out just like they do. Also talked about his headspace after. I mean, benched is probably the wrong word, but like saw his playing time significantly reduced in week 3. And then was able to kind of compartmentalize that and move on, and played probably the best game of the season. And I mean, maybe the best, like one of the better games of his career against the Vikings in week 4. And that's difficult, I think, sometimes for a young player to absorb some negativity and still put yourself in a position to have success on the other side of it.
Well, I think the big thing in this one was, the Steelers, we've seen them over the years not always take advantage of when we see backup offensive. I mean, we saw in week 1, they didn't take advantage of having backup offensive linemen there for the Jets. They were able to in this one against the Minnesota Vikings and really bully them up front. And when that's the case, and your defensive linemen are taking those guys away and letting your linebackers just play downhill, not letting guys climb to the second level and play free, that's why you get the performances that you do out of, Patrick Queen and Payton Wilson, which, by the way, another guy that I'd like to shout out that we probably haven't talked enough about. I think Patrick Queen is really coming into his own second year in this defense and playing fantastic right now.
I agree. I think he's looking like the player they signed, and I think in the long run, playing with Payton Wilson will be a really good thing for him. Very similarly to what Roquan Smith was able to be for him in terms of taking away some of the most difficult passing assignments and really letting him be a flow to the ball kind of player.
Okay. I was going to say, like, I was wondering where you were going with that. You started to answer, obviously, that without me having to even follow up. But, like, what about, like, on the communication side of things? Do you think that there will be a point where it is Wilson maybe even taking that off the plate, or you think that will just stay Queen's role?
I think he's just getting better at that. He hadn't really done it. He did it early in his career, and then gave that up to Roquan Smith. I don't think it's because he can't do it. And I think he is getting more comfortable at it and better at it. But that's a tough job to do when you're new to a defense. And, I think he will get a lot better at it and has gotten a lot better at it. And I think you get everybody else ready, and then you get yourself ready last. Like, I think it's hard to play well when you're worried about all the communicating you have to do.
Sure.
And so I feel like that was a part of, I don't want to say, I don't think he was bad last year, but probably not the level of player that we've seen in Baltimore.
Sure. And I think when you're talking about that position, when you're making that money, like, you got to be more impactful. And I think that you're seeing that play out this year, where it's kind of starting to become even with what the salary is and the value that he's providing to the team. All right, let's talk about the guy running the entire, well, I shouldn't say the entire, but TA talking as well. Was curious as to what all he had to say. The big thing that I saw on Twitter from him was him talking about the busted coverage, but I'm sure that there was more within that as well. I think that's probably just like the one overarching topic that was that stood out the most to me, at least on social media.
Yeah, he talked a little bit about Keanu Benton bouncing back. Pretty standard coach speak stuff about him kind of sticking with this process. Didn't really provide any explanation for why things have gone so poorly and then seemingly have been reversed, which as what I consider to be a fairly close observer of the team, can't quite figure out myself if it's not an injury. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, I guess that's where my mind goes to.
Shrugging my shoulders.
Yeah. I never want to assume that, and it'd be nice to like actually get like a straight answer. But my thought was, man, maybe that elbow is just a little bit more banged up than we thought, and he's playing through it. And I don't know how, like, not that it can't get healthy during the season, but it's like just playing through it. I just wonder where was the point at where he was actually able to get it closer to 100% and get back to the level that we then saw on Sunday. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer. I'm not sure, but that's just the first thing that popped in my mind was it was related to that elbow early on.
Yeah. I mean, look at what Broderick Jones with that elbow injury last year. I mean, you saw a pretty obvious slow start from him that got better as the year went on. So I don't think that's crazy to suggest.
Yeah. All right. So Benton there. What about anything on the Jalen Ramsey stuff? I'm just curious. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of said some very basic stuff about them trusting Brandon Eccles. Nothing too groundbreaking. Those assistant coaches are always going to leave the injury stuff to Mike Tomlin. We won't talk to him until Tuesday.
And I'd say kind of on the reverse side of the Payton Wilson thing that we just discussed was Cole Holcomb, who then took on like a larger role against the Patriots, but then saw a step back, obviously, against the Vikings. TA have anything to say about that? Is that just kind of be like a week-to-week thing, or is it going to be more of what we saw this Sunday, you think, going forward? And that was just because of, I don't know, a matchup that they liked or Payton Wilson's performance up to that point, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of gave the PC answer, which is we like all three of those guys, and we think we can play any of them if we feel like we need to. I mean, the Vikings are not a big, heavy personnel team. I do wonder if, he said like it felt like it was good that they were able to take a couple of things off of Payton Wilson's plate. So, like, I think there will, like, I don't think you're going to go back to Cole Holcomb getting 0 reps, which is what happened in the first couple weeks, right? So, like, I definitely feel like there's a little bit of a like, okay, that was maybe too much to put all every down plus all the special teams he was playing onto Payton Wilson's plate, and that there is like a little bit of a okay, let's see how much we want to mix in Cole Holcomb here on a week-to-week basis, but I don't think it's going to go back to being 0.
Gotcha. Okay. What about with the rotation at safety as well? And I mean, by the way, I don't know if this is worth bringing up, but cryptic tweet put out by Jabril Peppers, and not sure if it's related to anything with his tenure time on the Steelers, but he put something out there. Curious what CA had to say about the safety rotation and also your thought, or if you have anything on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously dealing with some injuries there, and he talked about how he feels like it's a positive for the team to have so many different guys they have already had to rely on He didn't really give any hints about what it's going to look like when they kind of are able to take a deep breath and put out the guys they want to put out there instead of the ones they have to put out there, which is kind of the mode they've been operating in. I think a lot of people were very surprised that Jabril Peppers did not play against the Vikings. I was not super surprised. I don't think he's a very realistic option at free safety, except against the heaviest of personnel, which, again, like we said, the Vikings are not going to play. And he's not obviously going to play instead of Deshaun Elliott very often, if at all. And so that kind of limits the way you can use him. It wouldn't shock me if we see him play a little bit of free safety in some downs where it's an obvious rundown and there's heavy personnel in there. But, Chuck Clark is probably better suited for free safety than Peppers is at this point in their careers. And also, going back to Payton Wilson play, I've so we'll get into this a little bit more, a big story about it today and sort of its bigger picture effects in addition to just the play itself. But if you watch that, he is like 10 yards in front of Juan Thornhill when the ball is released and ends up 10 yards ahead of him by the time they get to the goal line. Like, that is unbelievably fast for now, the corollary there is I don't think the Steelers necessarily have a lot of speed at safety in general with Thornhill and Clark and Elliott. And Peppers, I don't know who the fastest of that group is. Probably Thornhill, but it's not a group with a ton of speed. And so you got to be pretty careful about the combinations that you play them in. Assuming Elliott is going to play all the time, I think that's going to mean that it's mostly Clark and Thornhill opposite him.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but nothing in regards to anything you've heard as it relates to that tweet?
No, I mean, I haven't heard anything about his, that suggests that there's something wrong. So I'm just going to assume it's a wide receiver tweet and leave it at that. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, we don't want to put any misinformation out there. Speaking of misinformation, you mentioned something to me regarding Corey Trice and some misinformation that you were seeing out there.
Yeah. Some people were talking about him being designated to return by the Steelers, which it's not true. He was designated to return the moment he was placed on the injured reserve back in August. Everyone that goes on the IR before the cutdown date is automatically designated for return. The thing that would happen or could happen with Corey Trice, and actually I'm expecting to happen with Corey Trice sooner rather than later, would be opening his 21-day practice window. And at that point, the Steelers will have 3 weeks where he can practice, and at the end of those 3 weeks, they will have to decide whether they want to bring him back from the IR or leave him there for the remainder of the season. But in terms of being designated to return, now, if you're a player that just goes on IR in season, those two things happen at the same time, the designation for return and the opening of the 21-day window. But in Trice's case, that's not true. And he has been designated for return since he went on the IR.
Right. Okay. Also, I'm going to throw some names your way, and you can tell me if you know anything about them, because a list of players that were worked out by the Steelers today dropped. Kendall Brooks, Jack Henderson, Max and Hook, I do know. Glendon Miller, and Mark Perry.
Glendon Miller is familiar, but I'm not. I just know the name, but I don't know why.
Okay. Anything
Max
interesting about that group?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you kind of tell where they need some help, but nothing particularly interesting. I saw the group of players there for workouts, and I kind of gave the old once over. I was like, I don't know any of those guys are. So.
The Toledo Rockets, Max and Hook.
Yeah, good player. Where was he? Green Bay? No.
Let's see. Philly.
Philly. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was with their practice squad. All right. Yeah. We'll see if anything comes of those at all. I also had to heart this one by Randy Tobias here on YouTube as I was scrolling past looking for stuff for today, because he said, when does Mr. Alan Saunders get put on a snap count or podcast appearance limit? We have to make sure that he can last all season.
There is the limit does not exist.
Well, it certainly ain't happening tonight. You'll be with Joe Morrison tonight. So it ain't happening tonight. We'll be back morning rush, afternoon drive, and then Pelusi's picks tomorrow. So yeah, I'm not seeing that window, Alan.
No.
No post game Sunday. Steelers don't play.
There you go.
So
yeah, that's this weekend is when I get put on a snap count. There will be no content from me this weekend.
Good.
Yeah.
I was just going to bring up here this comment mainly because the way that it closes off. Said, hey, Mr. Saunders, appreciate the good job as always. Great content. Hope things get better for you there. Whatever's going on. Sorry for bad English. Greetings from Brazil.
That's exactly where I was going to go. We literally jinxed each other to talk about the same thing. It's great.
Okay. So obviously, greetings from Brazil. We appreciate that. I feel like we've had to have had at this point quite a bit of contingency in Brazil, but we appreciate those people very much. The Brazil group that recently started commenting on all of our stuff, definitely appreciate that. They put out their own content. I talked up their Instagram page a ton, so maybe that's how this person found us. And if so, we're very thankful for that. But yeah, Alan was dealing with some migraine stuff yesterday. That's why at the beginning of the podcast, he mentioned it wasn't a great day for him. So at least that's why I don't think anything's going on beyond that. I'm pretty sure that's what Alan's referring to.
We're good.
We're good. And as you can tell from the energy, in much better spirits here today. Alan, one thing that I feel like keeps getting brought up here in the comments that I just continue to see ever since we talked about it on the post game, there's been at least one comment every day, regardless of if we talk about it or not, is the state of the Steelers kind of changing, maybe not do as much with them as it is with the division and the conference, the landscape changing. I saw a tweet today and it really kind of hammered home the point that right now, 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers is the only quarterback that is going to have started all their games, assuming that Lamar Jackson misses this upcoming game against the Texans in the AFC North. Somebody asked here if we foresaw this coming. Who would have thought that Aaron Rodgers would be the only starting quarterback so far for every game for his team in the AFC North? And has your opinion changed on the way that things look right now?
Yeah, I talked about this on yesterday's Morning Rush a little bit. I definitely think the injuries to Burrow and to was essentially a quarter of the Baltimore Ravens. Also, did you see the tweet going around that some girl apparently hired a witch on Etsy to put a hex on the Ravens and some lovers quarrel, and that now this has gone through the Ravens fan base and they're citing as the reason for basically every player you've ever heard of on the team being hurt, not named Derrick Henry, who, by the way, has just been uncharacteristically fumbling.
And then didn't play in the last game, really. What do you have, 8 touches? Alan, I don't appreciate you referring to me as some girl from Etsy. No, I'd never do that. But anyways, I did not. I completely missed this. I'll have to look it up. I did look up the Richard Siegler story or whatever that we were talking about. I went through his Wikipedia page yesterday after we were done recording, but I'll have to look up this now. I mean, yeah, this is why I always say, we can do these predictions before the season and everything like that and talk about how we think things are going to play out. But we're always operating under the assumption of health and what the team looks on paper in that moment. We know that's not going to, it's a caveat. We know that that's not going to remain the case for all these teams throughout the course of the season. And it's why so much of this is just dependent on, for lack of better words here, I think luck. People talk about
surviving injuries is half of being good in the NFL.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're going to happen to everybody who has the least amount. That's why it's so hard to fathom dynasties even happening. How did the Chiefs have the health to even win as much as they have? recently.
It's just, I mean, a lot of it is just luck. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you make your own. I don't even know that, like, I guess, like, a really good offense won't get its quarterback hurt as much, hit as much. That kind of, like, I mean, certainly you can look at the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow's continued injuries and be like, hey, maybe, like, throw in an offensive lineman every once in a while and your franchise quarterback might be a little healthier. But also, the injury was turf toe. Like, it's just random, like, could happen on any tackle, although I guess it happens 50% less often if you don't play your home games on turf. But, yeah, I mean, I don't even know that you can blame the Bengals for that. Like, it just happens.
Yeah. It is wild,
We
though.
did get a
3 out of
question.
6
We did
seasons.
get a comment about the grass versus turf debate, which has been going around the NFL ever since Malik Neighbors' injury. And I know Puka Nacua shared something about the turf burn.
Yeah.
And obviously the grass is much safer. There are also, like, injuries that happen more on grass than they do on turf, but those are generally considered to be less serious injuries. So, like, the big bad ones, like ACLs and Achilles and also concussions, happen less often on grass than turf, and that has been pretty well studied over the years. We know less about the differences in, like, less serious injuries and their rates between the two surfaces. But yeah, I mean, there are certainly some situations where it's kind of unavoidable. New York, seemingly one of those. It would be very difficult to have a stadium shared by two teams that could theoretically be playing on the same weekend all the way through the end of January in a northern climate. Like, think about Acrisure, and then think about how much worse Acrisure would be if Pitt didn't stop playing on Thanksgiving. Like, I mean, that's just like it's almost not feasible at that point. And so, like, yeah, that's a situation that's kind of unavoidable. Most domes are situations that's kind of unavoidable. One of the reasons I hate domed football is that domed football, and I think football better is pass. I think it. I don't know. I'm a defensive kind of guy. I want to see the hits. I don't want to see the jitterbugging of guys in athletic shoes on turf. It's not the way the game was meant to be played to me. I don't like it in general, but certainly it is aesthetically. Also, just like all the best games involve, like, mud and dirt on your uniform and weather, and I don't know. That just, to me, that's what football is all about. Not the 2000 Los Angeles Rams. That does nothing for me in terms of entertainment value. And so, but yeah, the safety aspect of it is definitely something that's interesting. And I don't know whether you want to blame the Bengals for cheaping out on their stadium and going with turf, but I do think it's very interesting that for a long time the Steelers fans really hated the fact that the Steelers played on grass, and now the trend is very obviously the other.
Yeah.
Like, the Steelers were right to never put turf at Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah. Absolutely. We'll close out with this one here from Berg Sports Fan. Our guy said, I feel like I know the answer already, but I'm still going to ask the question. Everybody's talking about how to or if the ratio of snaps for Highsmith and Herbig are going to change. What about with the running backs, with the performance that Kenny Gainwell had? Do you think that he'll take on an even larger role with Jaylen Warren coming back into the fold?
It's an interesting question. I don't really know how to answer it because I felt like they were using Gainwell too much before the injury. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't have any idea how to answer that. Nor do I even feel like I have a good feeling about what the correct. Like normally, I'm at least willing to give you what I think they do, even if I don't know what they're going to do. I don't even know if I know what the correct course of action here is. Like I've always been a big believer in Jaylen Warren. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like if he gets 80% of the touches, he will be a top 10, if not top 5 running back in the NFL. But there's no question that Kenny Gainwell was good. And I don't know. I think I would probably just default to leaning on Warren and assuming that was a bit of a fluky circumstance with the Vikings kind of failing to adapt to the Steelers changing their strategy in terms of the. Oh, did you see my tweet last night, by the way, which has been going around with the
Let me see.
one play where the Steelers had out there 6 offensive linemen:
Oh,
Darnell
yes.
Washington, Connor Hayward, and Ben Skoranek,
Arthur
and they're
Smith
all
Cinema.
on the line. Yeah, and then just Arthur Smith Cinema. Yeah, it's like they don't even have eligible receivers because they're covering up. They're like this obvious run play, and I don't know what Minnesota's doing, but they're not reacting to it. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that to teams to that level over and over again. And I think Jaylen Warren is a better tackle breaker than Kenneth Gainwell is for sure. And so, I don't know. They keep blowing wide open holes. Maybe it doesn't matter, but I think I probably would want to lean more on Jaylen Warren in a pretty heavy way, honestly, going forward.
Yeah. See, I guess that's like, there's no unfortunate part of what Kenny Gainwell did on Sunday, but I think that we see Jaylen Warren kind of fall into this almost Alex Highsmith-ish part of it, where it's now like people are kind of downplaying him because he wasn't able to be out there and show what he could have done if they would have had that same performance in front of him. Like Jaylen Warren this year has had more yards after contact than yards. Like, so that just goes to show you the type of blocking that he's had. Now, if he would have gotten the performance in front of him, like they put on display Sunday, that wouldn't have been the case. And I'm curious as to what he would have looked like. So I kind of tend to think the way that you are. But what I will say is, as somebody that was also thinking that Kenneth Gainwell was getting a little bit too much burn at the beginning of the year in terms of how many snaps he was playing, maybe with the performance he had on Sunday, it at least justified him having that type of role. Not more than Warren, but at least like how much he had been used prior.
Yeah, it at least makes sense now to see what he did there. I still think even if the overall reps are where you wanted them to be, the timing of when they chose to take Warren out and put Gainwell in was just off in those first few weeks, where it felt like they were harming their own momentum by when they made the change. You know what I mean? Like you get a guy rolling, you want to leave him out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the one that I'd be curious about is like they obviously end up turning the ball over, but like Warren breaks that crazy play in the home opener and then isn't back on the field.
Yeah, to me, that's a poor choice.
Yeah. But all right, good stuff. Conversation will continue. Tomorrow is already Thursday. Alan will be back live with Joe Morrison tonight at 8. Obviously, looking forward to that. But Alan, until then, tell people they can find you.
Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus. Oh, wait, I don't have that. Well, tomorrow I will get the two other new SN Plus members on our shout out. But if you sign up, you will get a shout out in addition to ad-free reading at SteelersNow.com. Access to our SN Plus members only live streams, which happen once a month. We will have one coming up in October. And all the best content from me, DB, and the rest of the SN Plus team. And, of course, like my undying love, gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation, and all that, which may be worth nothing in terms of cash value, but is worth a lot where it counts.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know if I said the name. Night Shift, Steelers Night Shift will be where Alan is live at 8 o'clock with Joe Morrison tonight. But, Alan, don't have one for you because we're on a round one. We are at exactly 16,800 subscribers right now on the YouTube channel.
And the Steelers, of course, famously refusing to give out the number 0. I believe they did have a 0 back in like the 40s. And I think I wrote a story about him when the NFL changed the rule to allow number 0, but now his name escapes me.
Johnny Clement.
There you go. Johnny Clement.
Johnny 0. They started calling him Johnny 0. I don't know. I'm just looking at an article here about him. I actually can't even find it on the Pro Football Reference page, which I normally look up like the numbers on. So,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, they did have someone back in the 30s or 40s that wore 0 before the first time they changed the rules.
Okay. Anyways, yeah.
What are your thoughts on 0? Should they let somebody wear 0? Is that the Steelers being silly?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I know that I would be curious as to what it would have looked like on Darnell Washington. That was a big one that everybody was talking about. Man, would that have looked wild? I think the 80 looks completely fine for him, though. Yeah, I probably like a defensive back. I don't know. I'm trying to think who it would look best on. I think I'm okay with somebody wearing it, but it's got to be a specific player.
I'm kind of okay with them not giving it out. I don't think it looks good on anyone, really. Like
not even
numbers, most numbers you say like, oh, that's a good number for that guy. Like who wears 0 where you're like, oh, that guy definitely should be wearing 0. Yeah. A lot of times I see it and I'm like, why?
You don't like how Christian Gonzalez looks?
No.
He's the first one that came to mind for some reason. Who else wears 0? Calvin Ridley?
Christian Gonzalez should be like 21.
That would look good.
Perfect Deion Sanders number. Like,
yeah. Calvin Ridley, I believe, is still, or he at least was.
Yeah, like why? What about that guy? I don't know. I just, if you have the right player, I agree. Like, but I just think it looks dumb on anyone other than the absolute right player.
So, would Darnell Washington have been the right player or no?
No, I don't think so. Okay. First of all, you put a single digit on a jersey that big, and like it just doesn't. I don't think that's ever a good look.
Might have had to be double 0.
Over the years, had some Pitt has had over the years some defensive linemen wear single digits. And I'm just like, that too is just stretching itself trying to cover all that real estate, buddy. Like I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. It's a tough look for some guys for sure. Anyways, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, add to that growing number that's currently, like I said, since the 16,800. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. We are there. Just search through his Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok. Then you'll find me everywhere as Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders, and myself. Thanks for jumping in and take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.